Uh, yeah,
Every time I drink from the tap now, I'm like, Joel, there's fucking birth control in this shit, bro.
and the monk one was still really good as
Monk
well.
one was class, mate.
Yeah.
You know an episode of the pod is class when I make a video about what I've learned.
Mm. Yeah, and on that actually, like, I want to talk about the ego thing slightly more. Because I had a conversation. You framed it well in your video. That was like, ego is the definition is attachment to something worldly. When people normally think it as being better than who you think you are. Um, but I suppose by that definition, attachment, I can see why it's bad because you can't take anything with you, and maybe you're not being at a pure form. But someone asked me like that why is ego bad, and I didn't really answer them, so I thought we could start by discussing why is having an ego a bad thing, because like maybe you thought before it can have advantages.
So this is great actually because it was like the past 2 days, or about, yeah, 2, 3 days ago, I answered my own question. And it was actually after I'd made the video, the answer hit me. So the question I asked myself in the video was, how do we have unwavering self-confidence in our ability to perform without it becoming ego because no one likes that guy? And that was literally the question I asked. And then I was like making scrambled eggs or something, and just this thought just flew into my mind. And it was self-confidence. The line between self-confidence and ego is crossed when you no longer think there is work to be done. So ego is attachment, right? That's the sort of spiritual definition of things, like believing that what you do and what you have is who you are, which is dangerous in itself for your own mental health and your fulfillment and stuff. But I think the reason ego can be dangerous beyond the fixating so much on possessions and status and stuff is that it actually limits your growth in life in all domains. Because feeling confident in yourself is, I'm good at this thing. Being egoic is, I'm so good that no one can teach me anything. Like, I'm so much better than everyone else that there's no longer work to be done. And you can still be confident and be like, I'm good at what I do, I deserve to be here, but also know that there's so much more work to be done, and that when the game's over, training is going to start off on Monday and we're still going to get to work.
Yeah, I guess my initial thoughts is people on the other people side, like you said, people don't respond well to ego. In general, to cockiness. Occasionally, people mistake it with confidence.
Hmm.
Ego and confidence, like you said, is that line. Um, but no one. It just makes other people not really like you.
100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Well, this weekend just gone was the Copa del Rey in the Spanish Wheelchair Basketball League, which, like, the best way to relate it to something people would get is it's like the FA Cup, basically, in wheelchair basketball. And the team that won it is second in the Spanish league, and the team that were first in the Spanish league lost the final, right, to this team.
Oh wow.
And on paper, the team that are first are probably better, right? But the team that are second have this one player called Pincho Ortega. He's this Spanish double amputee. He's massive. He's strong. He's quick. Like, he's quality. He could be like the best player in the world in a few years. But he's a knobhead on court, and you could see it in the game. He was rattling opponents because he'll score, and he'll proper beat his chest like a gorilla and shout in people's face and stuff. And there was a moment where he got a steal, and then scored a layup, and then he like did that chest beating in front of the guy he got the steal from, and you can see the guy mouth F off to him like aggressively, on the stream. But like, no one likes that guy, but his teammates loved it, right? And him doing that brought the energy of the team up. And at that point, Ilunion, who were the team that won the game, that are second in the league, they had the momentum in the game because they just felt like they felt unstoppable. Whereas Albacete were like the victims in the situation. They were always trying to claw back at Ilunion's lead. Like, Ilunion stayed ahead by about 6 points the whole game.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so having that grandiose, like, I'm the fucking guy mentality, it is useful on court. But it's very difficult to then go away from your sort of chosen enterprise and then not be that guy anymore. Like I look at how Pincho plays, and I'm like, well, that's not really me. But like I can see that I could turn into that animal. And I'm like, do I want to do that?
Maybe it's something like could switch on and off.
That's what you have to do. I think that's right. You have to have the off court and the on court persona. You know, one of my coaches at the under 22 said to me that you can earn the credit off court as a nice guy, and then when you go on court, you're horrific to play against.
Yeah, I think that's the answer, and I think that's probably the easiest thing to do as well. I think when you're working, you should be thinking that you're the man, but then when you're around people, you should show your nicer side. It kind of reminds me of Conor McGregor as well, with his continuous taunts, and entertains the whole crowd, and then makes his opponents kind of perform. It could make them perform less well if they're being put in that uncomfortable position or something like that. And I think, yeah, it works better for him. I might be like that all the time, but yeah, then there's people should turn it on and off.
I think it's difficult to do that just generally with your personality, though, isn't it? It's different because we all have different sides to ourselves, but it's difficult to know where one stops and another begins. You know, like it's sort of like the Robert Greene's idea of remaining formless, like adapting to the situation that you're in. And that's why I think, didn't you say that was like the most important law or one of your favorite laws of that book?
Yeah.
It is like, okay, now I'm in a war scenario in inverted commas. It's us against them, but I need to be a warrior now. But then when you come off court, you're friendly. You're nice. You know, you're humble. You respect the other players. You know, but once the whistle goes, you're an animal. You know.
Yeah. It's Robert said he said it was the most important law. And there's probably something quite powerful about a load of people doing that together. Think, like, if there's a whole team in the basketball, I suppose that helps with the momentum of the game, and they get more and more egoic. And yeah,
I think belief and the psychological part of the game has so much more of an impact than I used to think, and I'm learning to think. And than most other people would think too. Like if you believe that you are winning and you're deserving of winning and you can do it, right? You will. Like it just does happen. Like you see in that game, Albacete on paper are a better team. Like they have the biggest guy in Europe. You've got one of the best facilitators in Europe. They've got one of the best shooters in Europe, right? But they bottled it because all of them, apart from one guy called Mateusz Filipski, he scored 41 points and still lost the game. Everyone but him froze because the energy of Ilunion was too much, and Pincho was the key proponent in that because he wasn't like hitting hero shots. He was getting curled into the key and he was hitting contested layups, but it was just every time he scored, it was this big boom and punching his chest and like staring people down, like, and it's just. Everyone just fed off that, you know, because they then believed, they were like, right, we're going to go and screw them up. We're doing this. This is our game, you know? And that's what the coach was riling them up as well. It was like, this is the final. This is it. This is us now, you know? So like, I saw that and I was like, damn, like he's a knob, but it worked. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I think there's something that attracts girls to dickheads that it kind of reminds me of as well.
And why do you think that is?
Maybe they're seen as more dominant, more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's probably about not giving a shit. When people give so much of a shit about things, like, and they kind of curl up inside themselves and are scared of the world or whatever, like it's quite unattractive, isn't it, really? being comfortable in your own skin enough to be that guy. Like, yeah, there's a lot to that, but it's difficult. It's hard to. There's two responses in it, because I know people that out and out say that that player is a dickhead and like you should never be like him, and then I also know people who go, that works. You know, like if you can psychologically rattle people at that level, like you're horrible to play against. You know, I remember. Go on.
I know you go on.
Well, I just gonna say I remember watching him live at Euros, last August, and just like he played in the final against GB, and like Spain stayed with us throughout the first half, and Pincho hit like a couple of 3-pointers, and every time he would scream "Vamos," which is "Let's go" in Spanish, and like he'd salute to the English fans after each three as he went back to defense. But then when he got fouled out in like the middle of the third quarter, because he's quite an aggressive player, we just all did a football chant of like when the footballers get like the red card or whatever, and like because it all just goes back to him. And that's it. He can't expect to just be him without getting a bit back from other people. Like, but that was amazing to see it live and feel that energy.
I've got a question. I know it's from my friend Dylan, and he wanted me to ask, what's the most destruction hypothetically that you could cause in a day?
Sleep badly, like really badly. Like drink a Red Bull like just before you're about to go to bed the night before, and like keep the lights on really bright and make your room really hot. Right, and eat loads of food before bed. Like eat a massive Domino's. So Domino's and Red Bull in a bright room, in a bright hot room. Right. So you've got like maybe 1 hour of sleep. No.
I think he was kind of meaning like more destruction to the world.
Oh, I thought he meant to himself. Well, you are your world, aren't you? Really? Just being really horrible to everyone you interact with. I mean, is that as much destruction you can do in one day? I don't know. That's more like a lifetime. Just kill yourself. Really. That's quite destructive. You might not feel the destruction. But...
Whoa. Yeah, I was thinking like you could probably go into a stadium and kill someone famous.
Now, but people would still think you're a hero.
Maybe, unless it's like quite a well-liked celebrity.
Well, you want to cause the most destruction. You just go and murder innocent people, but that's not practical. I think probably practical would be tell your family you hate them, go and die. That's the last thing they'll remember of you.
Yeah,
that's just that'll traumatize your parents.
Yeah,
no, that's hell, mate. That's hell, though. That's real. Why does he want to know that? That's such an interesting question. Are you planning something? You get his calendar out.
No, he asked it to me a while back, and he was like, "You should ask this." I thought it was quite an interesting question.
What would you say?
Yeah, I said go into a stadium and kill someone famous.
Is that practical? Is that doable though?
Yeah, probably.
I would go out to security though. Could you do that, Jacob, morally? Could you bring yourself to stab someone? Just to be destructive?
Me personally, I'd struggle.
Yeah. Maybe you've been brainwashed for a few months beforehand, you could do it, but
well, right it's kind of what I'm beginning to see when reading Dostoevsky, and I've got to the point, spoiler alert, where Raskolnikov basically kills 2 people, and now he's just getting away with it. And it is very, very realistic. it's kind of, he portrays a dizziness, a complete lack of knowledge of what you've just done, just taken someone's life from them, and he portrays it very well, and I feel like I'm transformed into Russia. I feel like I'm there. That's what he does so well. Um, so I'm quite invested in this book now.
Well, I've not read it, but isn't it about, this guy kills people, gets away with it, but the sort of moral is that getting away with it is worse than getting punished, because you have to live with the moral burden.
Guilt is a horrible emotion.
Yeah, man.
It's probably the worst emotion.
There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing practical you can do, because you can't change the past, can you? If you feel sad, you can go and like do a workout or go for a walk in nature or call someone you love, right? If you feel guilty about something, you can't change it.
Well, you just have to fix it practically, I think.
But how do you can't bring someone's life back?
No, not to that extreme. If it was guilty in a less extreme act, then I think you've just got to make your wrongs right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really ever had to do that. But I try to avoid
Not like in year 9 when you like cyberbullied that kid.
I was kind of brought to justice.
How?
Well, I think no, I don't think that was my exclusion, but I think people recognised that was a bad act,
Yeah.
and I think I did apologise to him.
You think
So-
you did?
Yeah, I did.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I try to avoid guilt as much as possible. I don't want to do anything that makes me guilty.
So the way you do that though, tell the truth.
Mm.
There's no guilt in the truth. You say what you believe to be true. You do what you believe to be true.
But how brutally true should you be?
I think it depends who your audience is, but as brutal as people can take without sort of throwing them off their whole center in the world. If someone says to me, Joel, do you like this thing?
Yeah,
And make trivialize. No, I don't.
like you did with someone's puffer jacket the other week.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you like my coat? No. Well, it's all right. Because when you do that, you fabricate reality. You give someone else something that isn't real. You make their world slightly more fake. It's not your place to do that.
So people living in a fake world.
Yeah. I mean, that comes on to a point that I've got today that I can go into.
I want to put something on top of that, actually.
Go on.
I was thinking about how people in services, right, who work in services, have to have basically like a script that they follow. So then if you deep that, it's like, okay, it's not really them living, it's the person that they formed the scripted person. And I think it's quite a horrible way to live, just like in some jobs where maybe you're on the other end of like a phone call, customer service people and stuff. That role is the person that's kind of living on, and you kind of haven't that person's kind of having their own life, and the pure you isn't.
And that's why a lot of people say that jobs like that can drain your soul if you allow them to. You know, like, yeah. I mean, it's a dark reality, mate. It's a dark reality. And it's around us all the time. I feel something that motivates me a lot and something I feel so grateful for is when I'm going about my life and I see people, and it's so easy to just not reflect on what you've just seen. But when you think about like the cleaner that comes into your uni flat once a week, and what they do for a living is they clean up the leftovers of some careless 18, 19-year-old. And that's what they do 5, 6 days a week and get paid pennies. And that's their life. Or like the Sainsbury's van driver outside, and you're his 40th customer of the day. And he's just driven around giving you pallets of food. And you might not even say thank you to him. That's reality, mate.
And how is the people okay with living like that, though? I mean, they probably have. Maybe some of them are forced to.
I mean, what if you don't have an option? What if you married someone you don't really like and had kids with them, and now you have a family to feed, and you don't really have many qualifications or skills? Like this is it, mate. People are trapped, and it makes me so grateful that I'm not trapped. And that's
just a couple of positions.
That's it. And I can see a way out of being trapped, which comes with its own discomfort, and it's not guaranteed, and it's hard work, but at least it's there.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that door's closed.
Yeah, that's the programming that we were talking about the other week.
Mm.
Yeah, you need to look for a way out. And I think that's the biggest advantage that we have. We've recognized that early.
Yeah. I don't even know how. I feel like it was given to me. So I'm so grateful for it. It's not like I searched for it. Like, I came along this. I came to this decision. I came to these realizations. It's not like I searched for them. They came to me.
I think it is something that inspired you that you decided to act on.
But this is something that Peterson talks about. He talks about how you can't, or it appears like you don't choose what you're interested in. When something catches your attention and interests you, you don't consciously decide to be interested in it. The interest manifests in your mind. And it's not under your control. So whatever the multitude of decisions and thoughts and feelings and actions that came to the position that I was in at 16 when I decided to try harder at school, and then when I was 17 and I decided to start making YouTube videos, and then when I was 18 and I decided that I wanted to take basketball more seriously, or whatever it is, right? Everything that led up to those things, really, were they mine? It's kind of like what I talked about in my video. Was that, are my skills really mine? There's something I've worked on, but,
They become you.
I'm so grateful every day.
60% of 18 to 25-year-olds want to be an entrepreneur. Males.
That's kind of mad.
Yeah. It's become glamorized, and I think for me, you kind of look at the jobs and the activities as glamorous. At the top, podcasting, they seem to have a great life, for example. And also, I was thinking about the other day, like the only way to become interesting is to be interested. And once you're interested, you become interesting, and then other people find you interesting.
You become what you're interested
in. I think that's what separates people. Like, it's like my flatmates are asking me, what do I need to work on to improve myself? And I told them that they lack individuality. And then,
man.
that's what I was telling you, like, how brutally honest should I be? Um,
No, that's good though, because if they can take it, that's good.
yeah, yeah. Something I didn't say though was like, which I thought about, afterwards, is like, something I could have added on to that is like, okay, what makes you different from the people upstairs? You did exactly the same as them. What makes you different? Because and I don't think they'd have an answer for that. And then I think that's why you need to become interesting, because that separates people.
Yeah, two thoughts about that. One, there's this bit that I heard through Mr. Beast, but it probably came from another source, where he said sort of, you're stupid until you're a genius. You know, like people will ridicule you or mock you or find you different, and they actually weird. Like, what are you doing? Why are you in a music room trying to learn to sing? Or why are you like waking up at 5:40 to go and push around in a wheelchair for a ball in a hole? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's weird. Go out and drink. You know what I mean? Like, what? Be normal. Just fit in. Shush. No one cares about your basketball. No one cares about your new personal Instagram. No one cares about your podcast. No one cares about your clothes. They don't give a shit. So you're stupid until it works. When it works, everyone wants to be a friend. Like, that's Mr. Beast is a prime example of that. They thought he was crazy about the amount that he put into YouTube. You know, his mum, he has lied to his mum about the fact he was going to college when he wasn't. He was working on his videos in his car. And now he's like he's going to be a billionaire. You know? So yeah, even if you're interested in weird shit, you have to indulge that deep interest. You know, because I see it now, like I'm too invested in what the hell's going on in this life and figuring out what the hell I'm capable of, that I can no longer do it. I can no longer do the normal thing. I have to, like we said weeks ago, I have to go deeper. But I really feel like, as much as it sounds pretentious, but I don't mean it pretentious in any way. This is just the way that I frame it in my mind, is that I want to be and am becoming a modern day philosopher that studies life, studies your own mind and the way the world interacts with your mind and how to be in the world. Like, I've discovered this at 19.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually what it really comes down to, is I want to be a philosopher, man. You know.
I'm just thinking of the word.
What is the word?
Well, I know what I'm gonna get up a reel where I know it was said, because I saw this today. Delusional. It's like people think you're delusional until you're proved right.
100%. Because there is a certain level of delusion that is necessary, because you have to believe it's possible, but right now you don't have it. So that's a delusion, right? Delusion without work, well, you know, where's that going? Delusion with the ability to work, and you have that belief that it's possible, like, that's when you can make it happen. It's not guaranteed, but you can. You know, like Jimmy Carr, I was re-listening to Jimmy Carr or Rogan last night, and he says that life is often in two parts. The first part is where you figure out what you want to do, and the second part is doing it. And he said most people do neither. Like, there was his life before comedy and his life as a comedian. And maybe that thing is what you're most deeply interested in, right? And you might, kind of like an onion, right? You'll be invested in different layers of this onion until you get to the core. So it might be, you know, when you're a kid, you liked Fortnite and trying to get attention from girls in year 9, and then you were really into like Marvel movies, or then you were really into football, and now you're at uni and you're doing business, and You might go into a first job and think what you want is money, or then it might be cars, and then it might be clothes. And then you get to that like core interest, right? For Jimmy Carr, it's making people laugh, right? And mine, I might have shaved off the layers of Fortnite and academia, and then I'm on the basketball layer, and that might go. But I think the core right now is philosopher, right? But that might change. That layer might dissolve again. But yeah,
it's like you live twice, and the second is when you realize you only live once.
yeah. Good Naval Ravikant quote, man.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Well, he said it on Rogan. He said most men leave. Actually, I think it's Naval Ravikant quoting Confucius. That like most people lead 2 lives, and the second begins when you realize you only have one.
So you might as well be all in.
That's it, man. I mean, that's like, I know I keep bringing him up because I'm a fanboy, but Peterson has this bit in one of his school lectures where he just says, the thing that's so interesting about life is that you're all in, because this is going to kill you. So you may as well play the most magnificent game you can possibly imagine. That should be a tattoo, mate. That should be painted on your eyelids. You know.
On my forehead. You're all in life. Wake up.
That's it. You're all in. This is gonna kill you. That's it. This is gonna kill you. Like, you've already started the level. There's no going back now. The biological clock is ticking, mate.
I also like, there's a phrase that's like, there's levels, there's layers, so pray for the players. All the people that are starting the game, fair play to you. I pray for you. You're going to have a tough time, but well done for starting the game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man.
What was that point that you said you were going to bring up?
Yeah, so this we can go, you can go any way you want with this, but basically I had a lecture the other day that just kind of blew my brain. My friends were kind of like, Joel, shut up, it's not that deep. I was like, nah, it actually is that deep. So like, I'm going to make notes about this and we're going to talk about it on the podcast. And I'm actually going to get my lecture notes up because I don't want to like butcher this too much. I'm going to kind of go off what I think it is, but yeah. So basically, I had this lecture on perception, okay? And perception is basically the meaning that you derive from your sensation, right? They basically said there's a stimulus in the world, right? Let's say my eyes detect this light that I've got in front of me here, okay? That's the stimulus, is the light. And then the retina, the photoreceptors on the retina at the back of my eye pick up that stimulus, and that transduces the stimulus energy into neural energy. This is what we've been learning. That neural energy, in the form of an action potential, travels down the optic nerve to various brain regions like the thalamus, the brainstem, ending up in the visual cortex where conscious vision occurs, right? But that whole process of it being regulated in your brain, that's what we call a sensation, right? Which is the stimulus being processed in the brain. And then it gets to you consciously in the visual cortex. But from that point, that's when perception occurs. Because perception is the meaning you derive from sensation. So perception is me sensing that light and perceiving it as, oh, that's my lamp, right? That's my perception of it, is my lamp. But the sensation and the perception aren't always the same thing, right? So, for example, an easy way to look at this is like a painting, okay? An abstract bit of art. The sensation that you will get in your brain, right? The series of colors and shades that your eye detects will be the same in everyone's head. But their perceptions will be different, won't they? They'll be like, oh, that looks like a cow, that looks like a doormat, that looks whatever it is, right? Or like, I think this evokes emotions of anger, or I think this evokes sadness or surprise, right? That's your own subjective perception, right? Are you following? Mm-hmm. And in the lecture, they basically went through the hypothesis that you don't actually live in the world. You live in your brain's representation of the world. And they're not the same thing. Like, the lecturer just argued that when you're a baby, you're born, and you have to interact with the world. You have to learn what objects are. You learn that this is a bottle of water, and this is a pencil case, and you have to feel them and sort of understand their texture and then what they look like, and then you can sort of categorize things in your brain of like when you see plastic things with this shape with liquid in, you go, okay, that's a plastic bottle. You categorize them, right? You learn about what objects in the world are, how they're associated, and what they mean, and what you can do with them. But once you've learned that, that then becomes an assumption about how the world works, which is true most of the time, right? Things that look like this are plastic bottles most of the time, right? So you can live in that world mostly all of the time, right? You create this cookie cutter, this frame of how you assume the world works, and that's where you live. That you live in the world of your own perceptions. You don't live in the world of sensations. Now, there's a lot more I can explain there, and you've probably got a lot of questions, but the way you can think about it is there is a physical reality separate from ourselves, but that is a series of waves, right? And particles and pressure, right? The world you live in is how that world, the physical reality, interacts with your mindset, with what you assume, what you believe, what you've experienced in the past, right? Because, for example, if you were sexually abused as a child, right, and you get older and someone sort of comes onto you in a romantic way, your worlds, two people can be completely different. The person that hasn't been abused is like, oh my God, someone's paying attention to me. This could be really nice. Or maybe I'm going to go on a date here or something. The other person is, oh, my trauma's been alerted. You know, we're going to get harassed. We're going to get assaulted. We need to get out of here. Same situation, two different worlds, just based on the perception, right? So you paint reality based on the way you view it. And that's that classic law of attraction bullshit notion of like, oh, you create your reality with your thoughts, right? And yeah, that sounds shit on the surface. It sounds like it's not true because it's so deep. This processing is so deep that we don't even know it's happening. We think we see the world, but we don't. And I think what we see in the world are functions and meanings and things that sort of move us towards where we want to go and things that don't. So if you look at a book, right, you don't see paper and ink and wood if it's a hardcover, right? That's not what you see. You don't see what's physically there. You see a story. You know, when I look at, for example, like this edition of David Goggins' second book that I've got on my bookshelf, I don't see paper and ink. I don't see light reflecting off this page. I see a guy and I see his life story and I see inspiration and I see motivation because that's my perception, right? So the TLDR, the underlying message of that big rant is we don't live in the world. You live inside of your own brain's representation of the world. And that is malleable because it's under your control. End of essay.
So, well, I like that. I really like that. Is the lesson then to work on your perception?
100%.
And how do you do that? Just by having a good state of mind and setting yourself up to being the most optimal way of viewing things?
I think it's a recognition that reframing or framing generally is everything. And that you can be the alchemist of your own life because you can turn lead into gold. Like you can turn a bad situation into a good situation literally just by how you look at it, right? Like we were just talking before we started recording about how I've been feeling some difficult emotions and thoughts about the fact that I struggle to relate to people around me. And like I'm nothing like these people sometimes. And like how that kind of ails me and brings on some disquiet in my mind. But then you can just simply reframe that as you don't want what they have and you don't want to do what they do. So you feel like you can't relate to them is a good thing. Like it's simple little reframes like that. And it obviously gets harder the more aggressive you go to. Like, what if I was traumatized as a child, right? I mean, that's a difficult reframe because sometimes there are things that you just can't think positively out of. I mean, my disability is a big one that people might think about, but to me, I just reframe that as it's open doors. So many more doors. I wouldn't be the guy that I am. Like, so it's actually like taking this shit seriously because it sounds stupid. It sounds like fluffy self-work, like believe in yourself bollocks. But like, if that's if how you view the world is your life, then why don't you care about it more? Like if you say that to someone, oh, your perceptions make your world, and they go, that just sounds funny, like, bruh. But that's hurting them because they are driven by the whims of their own perceptions that they're not even aware of. They don't know that they live in the world of their own assumptions. It's just like we were talking about, right, the other night, about pedestalizing people, putting them on a pedestal if we don't think we can get to that level. That molds your world. Because as soon as you put someone on a pedestal, you don't think you can get to that level, and then you feel you limit yourself. Just taking away that pedestal and being like they're just another person, change the perception, change the possibility. It sounds so like cliche, but it was actually being in that lecture and having a scientific researcher that has a PhD telling me you don't live in the world, you live in the world that your brain represents. And that's something that I've sort of had an inkling and a slight thought in my mind that was how life worked. Have it confirmed to me in an academic environment was amazing. I think that's why it hit me so hard.
Yeah. Some of my thoughts are, I think it reminds me of the obstacle is the way. Just a complete different way of viewing something. You're troubled by something, so then people give up. But if they viewed it as the way, then it can result in a much positive outcome. Also, yeah, what is real? I'm always a bit wary of the world.
That's such a great way of putting it.
I think it's kind of like I take it back to psychedelics, because I think psychedelics are like Pandora's box. When you understand their ability, like, it just opens you up and you question what's real. But so we shouldn't be content with this world being as it is. And I think when you work at something, the universe conspires in helping you achieve it.
Definitely.
And that's kind of the faith element of it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like a couple core beliefs that you need to have as a baseline. Once you've got that baseline, you can you've got many different routes to it. Something that's quite cool is there is a strategy from 33 Strategies of Robert Greene. I can't remember the numbers, but what he's basically saying was most battles it was about 2% were a direct attack. 98% roughly were an indirect attack. So how I interpret that is, it's not going to go right straight away. It's not going to be first thing you do directly is the result, and how you get there. It's going to be all these indirect, different pathway, squiggly lines that you do, all these choices that eventually you end up there.
Yes.
I think by having those baselines, you can get through all these squiggly lines because you have the self-belief and you have the faith.
So what are those baseline beliefs that help you navigate the squiggly lines?
So I think trust the process. I think all things. I think maybe karma is up there.
So, i.e., what you do matters, even if it doesn't matter at the time.
It's kind of what you give is what you get. And maybe the kind of main character mindset comes in.
Yeah, I mean that's just agency, isn't it?
Yeah, and kind of the acknowledgement that this is going to be extremely hard, but it's worth it. I think that's some of the baselines for me.
Yeah. I'm actually just making a note of that, man. I mean, trust the process, right, is a phrase that a lot of people accept, right? But you can literally reframe that as that's what faith is. Like, if you look at religion, they're just saying on a big community level, guys, let's just trust the process. Let's just be nice people and God will serve us and give us paradise at the end of this life. Like that's how you could summarize the Bible into 3 words, man. Trust the process. Just be nice. You know what I mean? Like that's faith, man. Faith isn't God. Faith is hope that things can get better. You know? Maybe the better definition of God is that things are better. Or things can be better. The potential for better. You know?
Yeah. And I kind of going slightly off. Something else I've been thinking about is like this thing called the hedonic treadmill. Familiar?
Yeah.
I think I heard Alan Watts talk about it, and it's also in kind of one of my lecture that was put into like a consumer perspective, where consumers always buy one thing and then they're gonna once they've got that thing, they're gonna be a new base level, and then they're gonna buy the next thing, and then they're gonna keep thinking that big thing is gonna make them happy when in reality it doesn't do anything. But I think what Alan Watts put it in this perspective was you're going to keep wanting to get better and better, and you're never going to be content with how far you've come. And you won't realize how far you come, and it's just an ongoing pleasure. Feedback loop. That's maybe something that you want to consider in not getting carried away with in success.
Believing there's a finish line. Because there isn't. There isn't one.
Yeah, there's also it's like one of the later laws of power that is like no when to finish. I think it's like 46 or something, which is aim for a point of victory and stop there, because people get carried away in the victories and more victories, and then eventually it comes crashing down when they don't aim for a point to stop.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, it's really nice.
Really. But yeah, I like that. I like that perception thing a lot.
I think I'm going to make a video on it, and that's what my next video is going to be, because you just can reframe everything. Like, it sounds stupid, it really does, but I think that's a big key to like coming at life with tenacity and enthusiasm.
Doesn't like Stephen Bartlett has some stuff about like how you frame stuff.
He said the frame is more important than the image.
And the image is like the thing that you're perceiving.
Yeah, I mean, this line that's been going over and over in my head the past like week is just that little bit from the Modern Wisdom episode with Hormozy recently, where like Chris just goes, imagine that you're the main character in a film, and the film starts now. What would that guy do? Like, those lines ringing in my head, you know? Because I've got written on my whiteboard that just one of the first things I see when I wake up in the morning is, what if it was possible? And if it was possible, what would that guy do?
I feel like people are going to hear that and they're going to think, oh, you're just an optimist. Life isn't like that.
Yeah, maybe it isn't.
It's those people.
I would say there are two. Well, it depends on what's more important to you. Do you want to believe what's true, or do you want to believe what makes your life better? Because atheists, for example, will shun religious people for believing in a bunch of lies, right? Jesus didn't walk on water. He didn't come back from the dead. God doesn't exist. Adam and Eve's a load of bollocks. Okay. But is that religious person happier than you? And are you just annoyed about that? Do you wish you were that happy? You know? And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm optimistic. That's not one thing that one of my friends at school used to say to me. I asked him, I was like, give me some honest advice. Because I can take criticism. He said, you're too optimistic. Okay. good point. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. Maybe me believing that it's possible and there's no cap to my potential is an optimistic viewpoint that might come crashing down. But am I happier being Joel Clifton because of it? Well, yeah. And if it isn't the case, then I'll find that out through trying, you know? Like, and also, I don't think I have, like, in my videos, I talked about like, I think it was my third video, I talked about this idea called optimistic realism, which is like a nice middle of the road between pessimism and optimism, right? Optimistic realism is taking something that's real and framing it optimistically. Okay, it's raining today. Okay, that's real, right? I'm not going to wish for it to be sunny. That's just blind optimism. It's not true. It's not going to be sunny suddenly. But instead of hating the rain, I can learn to dance in the rain. That's optimistic realism. You know. No, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, you can just look at things in a better way that are real. So that's what I would say is, you know, I'm not wishing that I know I'm not going to run a marathon, right? It's not possible with my legs. So I'm not aiming for that, right? But can I become the best wheelchair basketball player and a scholar and a philosopher? Yes, I think I can, because I actually think I can. Like, it's possible.
There's a Sinatra line where he's like, every time it rains, it rains.
Yeah. I mean, that bit I got from it's Gordon Ramsay mentioned it in a podcast, and the clip like went viral where he said, he was asked like, what was the best bit of advice you ever given? And he said, never fear storms, learn to dance in the rain. That's nice.
Some people's brains are a storm.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk did that, didn't he? He said, my mind is in storm. People think they want to be me, but they don't want to be me. They don't understand.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, man.
Like, the amount of stress is just like the lightning and stuff. Like, entrepreneurs are definitely the most stressful job, or at least up there.
More stressful than brain surgeon?
Also, nurses are quite stressful. I think it's. I'd say there's parts of being an entrepreneur that are probably more stressful. Yeah.
More than brain surgeon.
For a guy like Elon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's what in his book where he's like he had 3 days left before both Tesla and SpaceX went bankrupt, and then he gets a £1 billion contract that NASA that saved him. Yeah. Storm's past though. Get past the eye of the storm.
That's it, mate. Yeah. Do you want to go for one or two more listener questions before we sort of close off?
Do you think trees have genders?
No. Next question. Because they reproduce, or like they don't have sexes.
But sometimes you look at like a well-developed like oak, and then next to them there's ones with a slightly different like color bar, or like it looks more feminine.
Now, but Jacob, is gender socially constructed, or is it to do with your biology? Well, that's the whole podcast. Well, then trees don't have a gender because they don't have sex organs. Next question.
Okay.
They leave that kettle of fish there.
Would you be okay with being asexual?
Or would I be okay with it? Well, what if it was forced upon me by powers outside of my control?
You woke up one day and you're asexual.
What does that mean, though? That you don't have sex?
No, it means that you don't find either sex attractive.
I'd be okay with it, because what else am I going to do? Like, die? Like, not nice, though, is it? No.
It's interesting though, because you think these people are like would be missing out in maybe a family or
I don't think they exist, Jacob.
Weird.
Like, that might be a hot take, but like, someone says to me they find neither sex attractive. Like, I don't agree. Like, when you were 12 and you hit puberty, you did have a random boner in a maths lesson. Explain that. Like, you are. Like, that, I think that is just, nobody loves me. So I'm going to put up a defense mechanism and claim that I don't love anyone else. You're not, like, you have parts of your brain that are literally wired for sexual behavior. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have to have a conversation with someone like that. You know? Like, asexual is in, like, you don't want to have sex, but you like the romance thing. I know that's a thing. Right? But I kind of get that. I mean, some people might find sex gross. They might have had a bad experience, some trauma. Right? But I don't find either sex, I don't find anyone attractive. Yeah. I'd have some questions.
I won't listen so short because the internet will attack us.
Will they, though? Why not? You know what I mean? It's just, it is genuine in my opinion. I'm up for an asexual coming on the podcast and talking about it. Let's discuss it. I'm open to having my mind changed, for sure. You know?
Okay. I'll see what people say. My thoughts are, I get your point.
Like, how are you meant to, right? So let's put it this way, Jacob. Our biological structure has been evolving for millions of years. And throughout those millions of years, two organisms have had to feel attracted to one another in order to have intercourse and reproduce. You're telling me that millions of years of evolution has happened, and suddenly, within the last 100 years, people are suddenly saying, I don't want to do that anymore. And you're saying that's not, like, weird.
It is weird. Yeah, 100%.
There's something deeper going on, and I want to.
Why would someone be like, oh no, I don't fancy either sex?
Because if they tried, they'd get rejected. Fine, there's no way someone fucking really attractive is going to be like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't see fucking like, I don't know, Shawn Mendes suddenly saying, you know what, the thousands of birds that would just like rip their clothes off right in front of me, I'm all right, thanks, I'm good. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not true. I don't know. I'm fully open to having my mind changed by a conversation or meeting someone or hearing another point of view, but it just doesn't compute in my brain.
Yeah. I feel you. I'll make it happen. I'll go on a Facebook group chat for asexuals.
There you go.
Got a little passage to read out. Can't remember why. But thought it was interesting. So, the parable of the three servants. A master gave to each one according to his ability. To one he gave 5,000 gold coins. To another he gave 2,000. And to another he gave 1,000. In the same way, the servant who received 2,000 coins earned another 2,000. But the servant who had received 1,000 coins went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. The first two doubled their money, and the one who dug the hole gave back the initial amount, and Jesus wasn't happy. For to every person who has something, even more will be given, and he who has more than enough. But the person who has nothing, even the little that he has, will be taken away from him. As this useless servant, throw him outside in the darkness, there he will cry and gnash his teeth. I think what that means is kind of like, when you've been given something, do more with it.
Yeah, I think that's linking to the Matthew principle, which is, you know, those who have everything will be given, those who have nothing will be taken. And I think you're right. I think it means if good things are happening, keep going, because there's good things on the other side of good things. good breeds good. And it kind of links to what we were saying earlier about the law of exponential, and like law of exponentials in life, that things get better. If you start a positive momentum, that continues to increase. If you fall off the wagon and you start descending into hell, that also increases.
I think it's also to do with taking opportunities as well.
Yeah, for sure. If you've been given a gift and an opportunity, don't pass it up as something lightly. You know, if you're healthy, you've got a roof over your head and you've got things to do them well.
And also, don't take the safety route. Like, don't dig your money into the ground and hide it, because that's a safe thing to do. Take risks, and that's how more comes.
One more question, or are you done?
Yeah. They're all silly ones. I don't want a silly one. I wrote down here that I had, when I came back from January, I didn't go to the gym for 2 weeks when I was at my parents' house, and what I noticed was I saw a big difference in concentration and presence in those 2 weeks.
A decrease.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? What's the kind of link to physical activity to my presence and concentration?
The best way to be cognitively sharp is physical exercise. And just subjectively from my own account, I think when you do a really hard thing physically, it grounds you in the present moment. And when it's over, you're so grateful that it's over, that everything else is so beautiful. It's like you're okay with the rest of life. Now it's over. Now you don't have to have that bar on your back for another set. You know, like today, that grunt work that I did in my morning basketball session, like did my grunt work, had a coffee during, so that caffeine was kicking in as I was showering, got showered up, freshened up, deodorant, aftershave on, got in the car, put some positive music on, driving through the sunshine. Like, there's nothing better, mate. No experience is going to be better than that. Like, so if you test yourself physically, it's just easier to be a person and it's easier to navigate life. It just gives you that mental strength, that peace, and you know the endorphins that it gives you, the happy brain chemicals. You know that's not trivial stuff. So I can see why.
When you do hard stuff, other things don't seem as hard.
Yeah, man. The gym is not about looking aesthetic anymore for me. Not at all.
I think there's something Peterson said where, like, as humans, we have a very big natural evolutionary desire to move some heavy weight, do something hard in our day, move some, and
that's physical or metaphorical weight. That doesn't necessarily have to be squatting 100 kilos. You know, that could be cranking out an essay or having that difficult conversation.
But you think about all these cavemen were doing really hard stuff and hunting and like really pushing themselves and probably knocking down trees and moving like caves and stuff like that, and we're doing nothing.
There you go.
Or some people are doing nothing.
And we used to do that to just survive, mate. That was just life. Like, it's so funny that, you know, Chris Williamson framed it in this way, that you now have to go and pay to go in a room for 90 minutes and pick up heavy things and put them back down again. just to make you feel like you're doing something difficult. And people derive a lot of joy from that.
Yeah. Pressure creates diamonds.
Yeah, man. Pressure's a privilege. Yeah. I think we've had a good conversation today, Jacob.
Yeah, I really like your perception point.
I feel like every time we just chat, me and you, we get to like really talk about what's been most prevalent in our minds. It just fires me up, man. So
Yeah, because it's weird. So I've a week where like I think about certain ideas, and then I write some of them down. Some of them then come back to me. I realize what I think about, and I can see if you've got the same ideas. And that's quite fun.
yeah, man, these are the ones that we're going to listen back to when we're older. You know, the guests we learn stuff from, but these are the ones that we're going to like listen back to as like, oh, wow, this is where I was at 19.
Mm.
But yeah, decent.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. If you ever want to drop us a question, I do read them, and any guest suggestions. I know if you know anyone that's a monk,
If you're in contact with any more monks,
that's no. Thank you.